Good morning and welcome to Black History Month at Flagstaff High School. I have the greatest story for you today about the greatest athlete to not only come through Flagstaff High School, but many say the greatest athlete ever to come out of Flagstaff. Many even say he was the greatest athlete ever to come out of the state of Arizona. Before telling you this story, let me introduce you to two coaches at Flagstaff High School. You've heard of John Ply, probably one of the greatest football coaches in the state as well, and also Fred Anderson. If you play basketball at Flagstaff High School, you've heard of the Fred Anderson Award. Why these two men were so special at Flagstaff High School is because they were one of the first coaches, football, basketball, that allowed black athletes on their teams. The plaques hang on the wall as you enter Flagstaff High School, reminding everyone what these two men not just did for a few students, but for every student at Flagstaff High School. James Dugan is among the greatest in history of Arizona high school athletes. He lettered in 12 sports. That's right, 3 sports every year, 4 years in a row as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, and was placed on 9 all-state teams. But it was his senior year, 1963-64, that galvanized him as a once-in-a-generation athlete. His senior year, he scored 142 field goals, double that of his nearest teammate. But that senior year, he only played in 10 games. You see, he was suspended by the Arizona Interscholastic Association for the remainder of the season after a Prescott game because of an incident. And as of right now, I believe he's the only individual athlete suspended by the AIA. At the time, Flagstaff was a dominating high school basketball team, and the only way the Prescott coach could think to beat them was to get James Dugan out of the game. To begin with, James was fouled beyond you could imagine. He even complained to the referees who told him, hey, get over it, you'll still get your points. James was such an athlete, he worked around and threw the fouls. So that next step, Prescott brought on the racial slurs to a point where James couldn't take it anymore, turning around and punching this young man in the face. It even necessitated surgery that night because he broke his jaw. From the accounts of the game that night from eyewitnesses, it wasn't just the players but the crowd as well from Prescott High School, shouting racial slurs at James, trying to get him kicked out of the game. They succeeded. The game ended in that melee with a fight where the crowd was even coming out of the stands from eyewitness reports. The gym had to be cleared, and they finished the final seconds of the game in an empty gym. Norm Killip, who was on the team at the time, tells me that they actually had to lay down in the bus floor as Prescott fans threw rocks at the bus, breaking the windows as they left town. Some say James couldn't handle the pressure of this high-stakes game, but they beat Prescott 67-46. And after James was suspended, Prescott came back to beat Flagstaff High School by 2 points at the end of the season. I'm proud of the fact that Mr. Christensen, who was the president of the Flagstaff Unified School Board at the time, didn't suspend James. It was the AIA that stepped in after people complained that suspended James, and again, the only individual player to be suspended by the AIA. Mr. Christensen cited in a newspaper article that the Flagstaff board did not discipline James Dugan because after the investigation of the event, it was reported that James had been called vile names by spectators, players, and Prescott. This was even confirmed by the officials who refereed that game that night and cautioned Prescott during the game to stop using those types of names against a young black man. Because the Flagstaff board didn't suspend James, the AIA stepped in, and they suspended him for punching the young man during the game. I like it best how Robin Baker puts it, as she writes, I do not know why a leader in the AIA did not recognize that punishing a young man being attacked for the color of his skin was wrong when the people who were behind the scheme deserved to be punished. No, the decision stood. Leaders of Prescott High School and the city of Prescott remained silent, complicit in the racist activity that was encouraged by their coach and fans on that late December evening in 1963. James Dugan's basketball career ended abruptly on that night, even though he was the one who experienced the injustice. So, here's what we're going to do.
I am currently drafting a letter to the Arizona Interscholastic Association asking that they review the incident and reverse the suspension. If you would like to help us with this appeal, we ask that you go to the Flagstaff High School webpage, click on the Rescind James Dugan announcement. You'll then be directed to a form that will ask for your first and last name, as well as an acknowledgement that you support this appeal.
Today's lesson is have the courage to take a stand.
Because the only thing necessary for evil to triumph
Is for good people to do nothing. Welcome to Black History Month at Flagstaff High School.